Welcome to Eat Your Backyard, my YouTube channel where I bring you with me on my permaculture adventure in my backyard. So welcome to my Zone 10A Fruitopia. In today's video we're going to play around with a plant that I love very much. It's called DRACAENA. And DRACAENA is commonly known as a house plant, yet it is incredibly versatile. You can use it as a giant, really tree-formed bonsai tree. I'll show you some examples of that. You can use it to accent bright colors. There are many different leaf colors and they contrast very well together. It's a very sturdy leafed plant. I use it for all kinds of things, including structure, shade, windbreaks, overall aesthetic beauty, privacy, all of that. So let's go play around with DRACAENA. And if you're not subscribed already, please do hit the subscribe button and notifications. That way you'll be notified as I live stream. Lots of fruit harvests on the way. We have mango blooms happening on every mango tree in this yard. I hope you will be along this spring to see the delicious bounty. Also, we have pigeon pea, roselle, moringa, all planted in pots ready to put out. That's going to be fun. So, hey, I hope you'll stay tuned. Let's get right into it. Okay, so this is the new bunny run with my new art that I traded for eggs. You can believe it, permaculture networking concept. And I've planted some things along the base here, but I really want some structure to be right here. And the perfect thing to put there would be a nice tricolor DRACAENA or something like that, that is more of a vertical grower, slower grower that I can keep trimmed. And I'll show you a good example of that over in another spot of what I want to do here. Now this tree is a more common variety of DRACAENA, but I've been tree forming it for years. Every year shoots try to grow up from the bottom. I always cut those back, just did that last week. But I keep it up and over, and this will actually turn into a giant tree. This is a smaller of the versions of this I have. I have them growing along my fence as well. Let me show you how big those have gotten. All right, so let's take a look at this beauty. This is Song of India DRACAENA. DRACAENA reflex, and one of my very favorite, and incredibly beautiful. Really striking in contrast to the greener DRACAENA I have around it. I have some croton behind it as well that adds some interesting definition to all of this, but this is really an easy DRACAENA to grow. Okay, this DRACAENA has been growing here for years, and it's a good example of what you can do with this tricolor variety, and there are many that are very similar to this, grow a little bit more vigorously, a little slower depending. I'll show you some examples of that too. I have lots of varieties. But this one I continue to trim. As it gets a lanky branch, I trim it back, and I trim back where I want the new growth to come back. It always comes back with 2 or 3 shoots like this one, usually very vigorous. And sometimes a little smaller than the one that starts. So they can get shrubby, so you want to keep them thinned up enough so you can see the structure of it. I think this looks quite beautiful. I'd like to reproduce this to some extent over there by the division between the bunny pen and the chicken run. Okay, now this is a real beauty. Look at this thing. Man, a real Jurassic, beautiful looking thing. Looks like something out of a science fiction movie in a way. They're so beautiful. This variety is like the variety I just showed you, but it just has a lighter color to it, a lighter variegation. It's got some pink in it. But what you don't see here easily is behind this guy, there's one growing up that comes off of the base here. And I'm going to take a really long cutting, and that is a really cool thing to know about the DRACAENA, is that if you take large cuttings, they will likely survive. If you just water them, care for them by applying water to the cutting for the first couple of weeks, they typically almost always grow. And I go right from cutting to the ground. I don't let them dry out. I just put them right in the ground, water them. That has resulted in success more times than not. And The other ingredient, of course, is sunlight. Although these can grow in very, very little light, the more sunlight, the better the cutting's going to do. So let's get into harvesting this beautiful large Dracaena cutting. Now the branch that I want is this one that runs right down the side here. And it is actually probably extends up and out about 5 feet. That's how big this thing is. And I want to get it in a pretty solid part of it, but I also want to cut it low enough that when it regrows, it'll be growing where I want it to grow. And that is about midway down this fence. It'll start sprouting in the shade and just reach for the sky. All right. Let's do this right here. There we go. There it is. Lose it on the other side of the fence. Wow, that's a beauty. Look at that. It's growing on my neighbor's side of the fence. All right, let's take a look at that out in the light. So there it is. Not a bad little improvement. Yes! The Dracaena provides instant plant richness. See, I've also got Dracaena growing back in this space. If you look towards the fence, you'll see that there's one right there. Now, I'm going to need to be careful with Dracaena usage on this side of my yard because you can see this one trying to go for the sky. That variety, and that's the same variety that's against the other fence, wants to go for the sky. So might have to take this way back. In any case, it'll be a great resource for chopping and dropping back into this very bed right here. I can go back and trim it and just lay it down all around itself. What a tremendous resource in my mind, but it is a powerful resource. By that I mean it can, in this sandy, loose sandy soil, with the right nutrients, it will grow fast and strong. So you have to be up on trimming it, but it's just management of a system in my opinion. Okay, that is a big cutting. Look how big that thing is. That's standing next to me, so all the way to the top, at least 6 feet. That is a beautiful cutting. Now, we're going to do a couple things to prepare this cutting to be planted. And the first thing is, I'm just going to take a little bit of the lower growth off. Not a lot of it. And by the way, this is very good chop and drop. That's another thing I love about Dracaena, is that the leaves are plentiful. That can also be something that might bother you about Dracaena if you don't like having all the leaves dropping, but for me, I have all the leaves in a return system that goes right back into the yard. So these Dracaena leaves break down very easily, which makes them quite wonderful for chop and drop. These are going to go right into the chicken pen. Actually kind of gratifying to see the circle of life in action. So there you go. That's about right. And I just take a little bit of the lower leaves to reduce the burden of the plant, so to speak, to have to grow, but I don't want to also remove its ability to get nutrients. So there's that careful balance. But in the case of the Dracaena, I always do take off just a little bit if they're very bushy like this, because that sure is a lot of leaf matter to expect this tree to maintain. All right, it's ready. That's all we need to do. Now let's go put it in the ground where we want it to be. Hello, hennies. Okay, now, if I can, I like to use the jamming method, and this is sturdy enough, I think that it will be able to be jammed in. The soil here is pretty loose, sandy. In here it's very packed down because we walk on it all the time. And you can see I've got this cable. This is just coaxial cable TV cable. So I should be able to keep this thing managed off of it quite easily. In the meantime, it's going to look good right away. All right, well, I'll tell you what, it's not as soft as I thought. I'm going to go get a shovel. Okay, there are some areas of my yard this thing would go right in there, but this is not one of them, primarily because I have done construction right here. So I hate to lose this good mulch, and I don't want to get it all mixed together. So I think I'll just give it a... Oh, I'm hitting a stone down there. Interesting. All right, wonder what that is. Aha, here we are. Piece of concrete. Interesting. I think that's about right. See if I can, yeah, I can get it in a little deeper. I'm gonna angle it out a little bit like that.